Today's topic is COVID's impact on association living. I'm our host, Toby Shifsky, and our guest today, our expert, is Tim Brahms. Tim is here. He has been in association management for about 35 years, right? And is a licensed real estate broker. So he's a card-carrying member. He's a nationally recognized expert in property management industry and currently serves as the executive director of Community Association Institute. That is a national association, Community Association Institute, and he is the executive director of the Minnesota chapter. Right on. We're going to have a little resource for you later, really an excellent website for you to go to in order to get more information. And we're going to give that out a little bit later on. But it is with the Community Association Institute, their national website. Tim consults with associations and management companies around the country in the areas of board development, the process, strategy, and governing documents, right? Right. So you know associations from the bottom up and from the top down.
More than I ever thought I wanted to know.
Very good. So Tim is here because we want to understand what is happening within association, right? Association living organizations, CICs, common interest communities, right? And homeowner association management, because what's happening in the marketplace today, and I think we've all probably seen this, is really kind of an explosion of common interest communities and homeowners associations that have to govern those common spaces and the entire developments of not only new developments. In fact, what we're seeing, significantly is a lot of new development where they're detached townhomes, right? And we have empty nesters, people who are selling large homes, moving into smaller homes, not necessarily less expensive homes, but there are associations that are being formed every day in these new developments, and people have never been members of associations. They don't really understand how they work, but they're buying into new construction. They're buying, in fact, there's a lot of existing also, but how much power does that association, the homeowners association have? How does it affect the everyday life of people in those associations? And then really for our target today is, how is COVID-19 affecting that association living? Everything from selling to buying to living in, and we're going to cover kind of all of those today. Right? Now,
in 30 short minutes.
In 30 short minutes, just full disclosure, Tim does classes for us, and he teaches this over a half a day, a lot of this stuff. Now, we're going to really focus on kind of today's pandemic world that we're living in, and we're going to talk about some of those significant pieces. In fact, I just want to jump right in, Tim, if you don't mind.
Yep.
So COVID impact on sales and marketing associations. Most of the people listening today, you're going to be licensees, right? You might be realtors, but you're for sure licensees, and you're in the process of buying and selling for people and for another, right? Association properties. And if it's like me, when I sell association property, normally, I go in and I would represent a seller or a buyer, and I would get the association documents. Many states have requirements that the documents have to be, but a lot of time I get those documents and it was like a hot potato, right? I mean, I would get it and be like, I don't know how deep I want to look into this, because I hear, here's to the buyer, you better look at this. And that can be trouble because there are a lot of things in those documents, and there are a lot of things happening today in associations that we need to be aware of with COVID. And so I'm going to start, because it's probably the most important part that people want to understand, what's happening? What kind of impact has COVID had on association sales to date? Everything from showings to inspections to everything. What are you seeing?
Sure. So the good news is that sales are brisk. I have not seen across the country, I have not seen a decline in sales at all. I've not seen a decline in pricing. So all of that's really good news for the realtors out there. What's happened, though, is as in many industries, the code word now is pivoting. Associations have had to significantly shift the way they're doing business, the way they're holding meetings and so on, but specific to realtors and sales, what I've seen with showings is a number of things. Some associations in some states, in some cases, are actually putting guidelines in. So in the past, maybe they didn't allow signage and now they do, or vice versa. But in terms of showings themselves, what I'm seeing is in some cases, depending on the economic situation of the seller, they're waiting to put their property on the market until they've already moved, whether they're moving into a new home or renting or whatever. They're not putting their unit on the market because they don't want people coming through while they're living there.
Got it.
So it's delayed the time that there's extra product coming on the market.
So you're saying that a seller is right now, you're seeing as a trend, more and more of them than probably before are saying, listen, I don't want to be there when people are coming through.
Correct.
So they have their next destination basically locked in. Either they're buying a place and they get a swing loan, or they pay cash,
exactly,
or whatever, but they are looking to be out of the facility before the showings are even happening.
Exactly.
Got it.
So oftentimes they're empty, but it's also created a situation where there's less on the market.
Takes longer for them to get their new place
than there otherwise would be, right? Okay. So that's an issue for a buyer.
So demand is not down for there's buyers.
Absolutely. I have not seen a slip in demand at all. In fact, there may be the opposite has happened. There's less property and more buyers.
Got it.
But what I've seen, even if it's empty, okay, what I've seen is open houses that are being handled differently. So open houses now aren't technically open. In other words, they're being done in such a way where you have to make an appointment. So I'm going to hold an open house from 1 to 5 on Sunday, but it's by appointment only in 15-minute increments. And you better be on time because we're going to fill up. Okay.
Got it.
So by appointment
only.
So
open house by appointment only.
Right.
Yeah, got it.
Okay. Not necessarily makes sense, but it is.
Yeah.
I've seen some realtors that are doing this. Where they are requiring, and this may be the homeowner that's requiring it, it may be the realtor that's requiring it, masks and gloves. So, the old signs that say, please remove your shoes when you come in the house. Now it says, please remove your shoes, put on a mask, put on gloves, which are supplied there before you go in to keep everybody safe. Listen, we need to be respectful of everybody that's out there. Some people are not willing to social distance or wear masks or whatnot. Others, we just need to respect one another, right?
Sure.
So I've seen a lot of that where they're asking for masks.
I think you said, we talked a little bit before and said that in some situations, even the person holding the open house, the agent, is actually outside the unit, not even in the unit, and is literally, a traffic cop, and making sure people are getting everything on before they go in, and they're feeding people in so that there's not too many people in the place at once, right? And especially if it's by appointment, but they're setting up outside the unit.
So pre-COVID, all of you realtors out there, you stood inside and usually at the kitchen counter, and you had a bunch of stuff laid out there, about the home and your business card and whatever, and you stood there. As people came in, you chatted, whatever. Now you're not doing that. Many realtors aren't doing that. You're setting up a little stage outside, and again, you're allowing people in. You're being that traffic cop. The other thing that I would recommend, because there are people that, the whole touching thing, if you've got something that you want people to have as a takeaway, make little baggies for them and have them individually set so that they're only going to touch one if they take it and set
Pluck
them
it
aside.
And go.
Right.
Pluck
exactly.
it and go.
Exactly.
Brilliant. All right. So let me be just a little recap on this. So they're still selling.
Yep.
There has not been a drop off in demand. What about price? Is there, if the demand hasn't dropped off, I'm imagining price hasn't dropped off.
I've not seen a drop off in price anywhere in the country. There may be some areas, depending on socioeconomics, that they're static. Yeah. But I've certainly not seen it. This is nothing like what happened in the mid 2000s. When the real estate market collapsed there. Yeah. That has not happened here.
Not at all.
Nope.
Not at all. All right. So
great news.
Yeah, great news. So pricing is consistent, if not still going up, because demand is probably still driving. Now, that's current, right?
Right. Can I tell you a quick story?
Yeah, go right ahead.
And this is a particular market, but it's important nonetheless. I have kids that live in Washington, D.C. They recently lived in a condo up until recently, bought a home. Their condo on the market on a Thursday. That's what happens there. Went onto the market on Thursday. They had 15 showings between Thursday and Sunday. They had 3 offers, all full price. One that had a built-in escalator, and they signed on Monday.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's not uncommon.
Yeah.
So that's the DC area. Florida, I'm involved in Florida real estate as well. Same thing there. I've got some people down there that I refer to. Things are selling like hotcakes.
Yeah.
Even up here. Even up here, that's happening.
So up here, we're in Minnesota.
Oh, sorry.
Now. Yeah. So the great big north.
Up in the Northland.
90 some degrees out right now. So, so things are moving. People are doing it a little bit different. They're by appointment, right? So let's get on to the next phase. The next phase is, kind of this kind of the underbelly, the possible problems that maybe we're just starting to see. And that is delinquencies on assessments, right? So you're in a homeowners association. Every month you get an association assessment, that's basically due. You got to do your monthly payment. And what's happening with that? Are you seeing any delinquencies? I mean, we're seeing some movement on mortgages not being paid. What are you seeing right now? Are foreclosures running rampant, or where are we at?
So, great question. And so the short answer is no. We are not seeing an uptick in foreclosures. But let's keep in mind, we're early on in this, right? So life just sort of came to a screeching halt in March, and it's only June right now. So it's a little too early to tell. Delinquencies are up slightly. It's certainly not gone at this kind of rate. They're up slightly. Foreclosures, there's a moratorium on foreclosures in most parts around the country, and I don't see that happen. Associations aren't going to foreclose until the delinquency is significant.
Okay.
So some accounts have become more delinquent than they otherwise would have been. But associations are working. So again, there's professionally managed associations and self-managed associations. Self-managed associations are often rogue and do things that are not necessarily legal. They're against their bylaws, whatever it may be. It's more difficult to talk about them. But if you're representing a buyer in an association that is not professionally managed, I would do a deeper dive into their financials, because heaven only knows what's going on in that association.
Sure.
If it's professionally managed.
How would you tell the difference if it's professionally managed or if it's local? Is it because you would actually work with
Well, you would ask.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What you're going to find is there's a theme here.
Right,
Tim
right.
says, ask questions.
Pretty much every question that Toby and I are going to talk about, I'm going to say, so ask a question.
Yeah, because some things are required legally. Like your state may require certain disclosures.
Sure.
But none of it precludes you from asking more.
Correct.
And what we're going to find is as we get into COVID further, states are now loosening up and opening up, but there's a tail on this. There's a long tail on this, and there's an unemployment tail, and there's a delinquency tail. And so as we get further into this, there are bigger ramifications as we're going to see.
Right.
And so, but you can always ask for more information.
So back to delinquencies for just a second. So some associations have started at least thinking about, we have so many people that really can't pay right now. Should we refigure our budget and actually waive a quarter's worth of dues or a month's worth of dues to help support that? You need to understand that going in, and those are the types of questions you need to ask. There's people out there that say, oh my God, you can't change the budget. Well, sure you can. A budget's a tool, but if you do it thoughtfully, if the association does it thoughtfully, they can do that and rework that budget and waive some dues for a short time.
Got it.
Just know that going in.
So I'm an agent, and I'm out representing a buyer, and we go to purchase a place, right? And maybe we're in line with 3 other people, and we're all bidding on this multi offer, and they select ours. We're still in most states, you're going to be able to get the association documents to look at the financial viability of the association, which is always important. And in there's going to be your annual budget number, the big top number. This is how many the fees and dues that we're collecting, and then one of the line items in there is going to be delinquencies. Right?
Well, it's going to be it's going to say accounts receivable. It's not going to say
delinquencies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Accounts receivable, really delinquencies. So, because what you want to know is this association healthy? And what I think we might find is, well, you tell me, are there some socioeconomic, is there some problems that we should be aware of?
So here's the key. You're going to look at the accounts receivable line, and it's going to be one number. What you need to understand is what is that number made up of? Okay, so let's say that the delinquency line, say it's a $500,000 annual budget, and the delinquency line is $20,000. I can't say, is that a good number? Is that a bad number? Is that acceptable? There's no such thing. What I can say is this: ask what makes up that $20,000. Is it one person missing $20,000 delinquent that's 3 years behind in dues, okay, or has a bunch of fines or whatever, or is it 50 people? I can't do that math. Is it 50 people that are each delinquent $200? That's a significant difference. If a large number of people have small delinquencies,
that's an indication that something is happening.
Exactly. But and then again, ask, okay, what are you guys doing about this? Did you waive that month's dues on purpose, but just delay them so they're showing up as delinquent, but they're going to get paid up in a couple months? Versus the other is it a $20,000 delinquency that's one person? That's a different scenario. But my question there is, what are you doing about that? Why are you letting this happen?
As an association,
right.
How can we let somebody slide for 3
exactly.
years? Which could be an indication of what kind of management is happening there.
Right.
And here's the real key. The real kicker in all this is, and I think most of you probably know this, you probably got it in your licensing class, and maybe you forgot, but association dues, right, create a statutory lien on a property.
Correct.
They can foreclose on you if you're not paying that. Now, generally, you're going to wait till the bank, because usually the mortgage is involved or there's something else. But it's a lien. And here's the other part. When your buyer buys into that association, they don't just get the unit, they get the association too, right? They get the property, but they get the association and all the baggage that comes with it. So the nightmare case is you represent a buyer, they come into an association, they buy a property, and then 18 months later, they get an assessment to pay for all the delinquencies that have never been recovered.
Right.
And projects have been on hold, and maintenance have been on hold, and they start shutting down the pool and the tennis court and any other of the amenities, and they're stuck holding the bag. The new owner is.
So two things that I would add to that. One is that most states have a resale disclosure, some document that you have to get, and any delinquency will be paid prior to closing.
Sure.
Right. So you shouldn't get stuck with your particular unit owner's back dues. The buyer shouldn't be stuck with that. But if there's a number of people that are delinquent, in order to keep the association solvent, your dues may go up, or as Toby said, there may be a special assessment. Less likely to happen. I don't see a lot of those scenarios happening right now, but it certainly can.
Could happen. Got it. So the assessments of delinquencies, and we're just at the beginning of this, right? There are some government-assisted plans out there right now, unemployment, paying some extra dollars during the unemployment phase. Some of those extra dollars phase out come July.
Right.
And so whatever we're seeing now, the potential is that we see
could get worse.
Yeah.
We just don't know yet.
We just don't know.
We'll talk again in 3 months, and then I'll let you know what's happening then.
All right. So, and then the one last thing I just want to make sure we cover is that some associations, right, are actually being very proactive, and they are actually saying, listen, nobody has to make a payment. They're reassessing their budgets, and they're giving a 3-month time period to get at ease.
Yep.
Also, so that could happen also. Once again, ask questions. If there's anything that looks goofy on those financial documents, anything looks out of line, ask questions.
Depending on, I will continue to add one more thing.
Yeah.
Depending on the state that you're in and your resale laws, the what you are required to get if you're representing a buyer. In some states, meeting minutes are a requirement, but not in all states. And in Minnesota, for instance, where I primarily live, live primarily, we don't require meeting minutes. I would actually vote in favor of that because I think that's critical. You can really understand what's going on and see how the board is reacting to things if you get meeting minutes. If you're in a state that doesn't require them, ask for them. Right? They may not get them, but you for sure won't get them if you don't ask.
Yeah. So associations, right, their boards are expected to have regular meetings, right, by their bylaws,
Correct.
and they are expected to keep minutes. Some states will require those minutes as a part of the disclosure.
Correct.
Others won't, but you can always ask for them because what happens in those meetings is current.
Right. Correct.
Right? What are the problems they're dealing with right now? So you can read pages of minutes and go, holy smokes, there's something really nasty happening here, or boy, these guys really seem like they're on top of it and we're doing well.
One last tip on this. Toby mentioned a couple minutes ago the idea of special assessments, which we don't have time to go into now. Hopefully you all know what that means.
Yeah.
A question that I would ask is something like, when is the last time the association did a special assessment? If you're working with a buyer, when is the last time this association had a special assessment? Or how many special assessments has this association had in the last 5 years? Things like that are good questions to ask.
Excellent. And to give you a track record. And that might not show up in the documents, right?
It won't.
It won't.
Nope.
Okay. And it could be a management style that they just all of a sudden will spring an assessment down
Right.
for projects that need to be done, as opposed to planning, years.
And then, find out what it was for and why did they have it and so on. Okay.
Got it. Right. All right. So let's move into kind of this day-to-day living within an association. And because what happens is you maybe sell a property and the buyer moves in and everything's hunky-dory until, especially during the pandemic, right? They go to use the pool, or they go to walk on the walk paths, or they go to use the party room. And what happens? They're shut down, closed.
So here's a question for you.
Yeah.
How well do you know your buyer that you're working with? How well do you really know them? I get the fact that we're all working for that commission and that check at the end of the day, but how well do you really know your owner? And here's how this relates to what Toby was just talking about. One of the things that has happened where associations have pivoted very, very quickly is in their common area facilities. So how important are those things to your prospective buyer? Okay, so let's talk about pools for just a minute. In many cases, so if you live in the southern part of the country, your pools are open 12 months a year. If you live in the northern part of the country, your pools are open very limited. Okay, so depending on where you are, this is going to change a little bit. But in many cases, pools shut down. If they were already open, they shut down, just totally shut down. Whether it was mandated by the governor or your municipality or not, the association may have taken that choice, have taken that move.
And they have the ability to do that, right?
Absolutely.
Association can go above and beyond whatever your municipality or your governor or anybody, right?
If your governor says pools have to be closed, you can't open them. But if your governor says the pools can be open, you're not required as an association to open it. You may have a board that they have that right. They make the decisions. They're the decision-making entity for that association. They can say, we're not going to open the pool. What I've seen a lot, and Florida, this happened because they're open year-round, obviously, with their pools. They didn't shut down their pools. What they did was they took away all of the pool furniture. Gone, right? So you can come to the pool, but you're sitting on cement, right? They limited the number of people that could be at the pool. They limited the age group that potentially, again, depending on the laws.
Yeah, if it was said you had to be 13 or older, now you had to be 18 or older.
Right, things, or you had to be with, that sort of thing. So the rules changed as it relates to
association by association by association by amenity by amenity by amenity.
So if your buyer is an Olympic lap swimmer, so a pool is critical to them, you better make sure that this association that they're looking to buy into has a fully operational pool that they're or workout. I mean, a lot of the clubs now are starting to open.
Could be a material fact, right? It could be for their use and enjoyment of a property. You got to know this, right? And so associations have the ability to shut it down. They have the ability to manage it. And And what do you say to people when they get in this situation? I mean, how do you change that? How do you organize it differently? Is there a way to affect the boards?
So the way to affect change in an association is to get on the board. The board has the power to change rules and regulations anytime they want with certain notice to the homeowners, but they don't have to go to the membership to change the rules and regs. They do have to go to the membership in most states to change bylaws or declarations, CC&Rs. But typically rules and regs are done by the board. Get on the board, get involved on the board, get on a committee.
Got it.
Get involved.
So when I'm looking at common areas that you're paying for as a part of your association dues, right? We're looking at pools, we're looking at workout facilities. I mean, this is like fitness gyms are closed,
right?
And I've just started opening back up again, right?
Yep.
So, however the association is handling it, what
Exactly.
are you seeing there? I mean, because for a lot of people, it's extremely important.
Right. So most of the fitness centers within associations are, again, open, limited, less hours, limited number of people per time slot. Associations are providing sanitizer and wipes, and you're required to do all. The problem is that who's monitoring that? So you still have to be comfortable going and doing what you're doing. One other common area that you don't often think of as a common area is an elevator. And that's it, you're pushing buttons, right? It's all about touching now with COVID. In high rises, I know people that if they can, they're walking. They're not using the elevator at all. I've seen associations that only one person can be in the elevator at a time. So it's causing delays, but to be fair, where are people going right now? But and in low rises that have elevators, I've seen some rules put in place where unless you're handicapped,
you can't use it.
You are required to walk.
Interesting.
So it's all over the board. There's tens of thousands of community associations around the country. Every single one is different.
Everyone's different.
And then every state is different. Governors, municipalities.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So can you, when we talk about these public areas, we talk about really the interaction of the tenants, the owners. and even their guests.
Yep.
So the question of masks, we're not wearing masks today. We have a really hard time with microphones and we're trying to social distance here. We're probably within a little tighter, but the idea here is what about masks? Can associations require masks of you and your guests?
The short answer is yes, because there's nothing in the law that would preclude that. There's nothing in the documents that would preclude that. So the answer is yes. Somebody, again, it comes to how are you going to monitor it? What happens if somebody isn't wearing a mask?
What's the penalty?
Right. The issue of guests, Toby mentioned guests. It's important to know that if you're working with a buyer that is looking to purchase in an association, and they're a first-time homeowner association buyer, that they understand they are responsible for their guests. And their guest isn't going to be the one that gets in trouble. It's the owner that's going to get in trouble. If you have a guest that does something against the rules, it's the owner that's going to get in trouble.
So you are responsible for
Absolutely.
Your friends.
You are.
Got it. Very good. So big topic, tons to unpack. Tim normally spends 4 hours describing balance sheets and homeowner association documents and rules and regs. But thank you for being here today, Tim. I appreciate it. I know that COVID has affected everybody that's listening to this, and it's an interesting perspective on homeowners association. You got to be aware, and you got to ask
questions.
Get
questions. Legal advice. You as us as realtors, it's not appropriate for us to give legal advice. If somebody's spending $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 on a home, have an attorney there to help them through this.
Yeah, especially if there's questions.
Right.
And especially if there's questions that can't be answered. Do not be afraid to get legal advice. Right. This could come back to bite us later. So I just wanted to wrap up. But one thing I wanted to let you know is Tim gave us a really good website to go to that has got a whole section on all of this stuff.
Right. So I'm, as Toby said earlier, I'm the executive director of Community Associations Institute, the Minnesota chapter. Our national parent organization is just Community Associations Institute. The website is www.ccins.org. www.caionline, all one word, caionline.org. They have put together and continue literally adding to it daily information specifically related to COVID and homeowner associations. It's a great tool.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
We'll
you
see
all.
you soon.